Thank you so much for coming. And before we get started, I just want to thank our sponsors, which include Sigma and AWS, for sponsoring this industry session. And so here we go. So I'm Noah Levine. This is my second Data and AI Summit here at Databricks. I come from the industry, and I've worked at media companies, I've worked at a measurement company, ad tech, the companies like Google and Adobe. And I'm so excited to be here with you today because we have such a unique opportunity. If you think about what the industry is going through, and if you think about the technological capabilities that Databricks has to offer to be able to empower all of you to navigate the really, really complicated change that our industry and marketers going through, we have an opportunity to really solve those problems. And so today you're going to be hearing not a bunch of presentations. Instead, we're going to have a series of fireside chats. There's going to be 5 of them, including ad tech company, measurement company, Integral Ad Science. Then we're going to have a session with Publicis and Epsilon, followed by NBC Universal, and then Axiom. And we'll close it out with Fox Entertainment. So I really encourage you to stay throughout the session. It's going to be a very compelling conversation. So in addition to the people that are joining us today on the stage, I just want to point out that, our market, it works as an ecosystem, okay? And organizations are not really able to function without other vital organizations within the media and advertising ecosystem. And so I just wanted to call out how we have amazing representation here in the room and on the logos on the slide, which includes the top streamers, the top advertising agencies, the top ad tech firms, and other types of categories, including CDPs and data organizations and so forth. And these companies, all operating on Databricks, really create a synergistic moment for us to solve some of the big challenges that we have. So what are those challenges? I think it's very important to level set. I really just want to focus on 2 of them. And the first one is what media and advertising is really about. It's about competing for human attention. There's only 24 hours in the day. Hopefully we're sleeping 8. There's work, there's life, there's socialization, and then there's digesting media. It's not as simple as it used to be 25 years ago, where it was really just television and movies and live performances. But now we have severe competition with social media as well as with gaming. And this competition is only heating up. And this means we need new types of tools available to us to be able to continue to win that audience and win the right to be able to monetize that audience. The other thing is that media and advertising, media in particular, generates a very large component of its revenue from advertising. And it's really important to call out that advertising globally is about a $1.1 trillion market for this calendar year. And in the US, it's about 425 to 450 billion, depending upon what study you're looking at. And there's 3 companies that have captured 50% of that global number and 60% of the US number. And they're the 3 largest big tech giants that generate revenue from advertising. And it's an opportunity for us to think about, what do they do so well? I'm going to tell you what they do so well. And the beauty is you can do this in partnership on top of in Databricks. Really what they're doing is they're harnessing the power of their data and they're leveraging AI. When I say AI, I obviously mean generative AI, but I also mean machine learning. And we should absolutely not overlook the power of machine learning that it can play in our ecosystem. And so uh, I just want to focus your attention on two specific areas that data and AI is really helping solve challenges in the way that the tech giants solve. And the first thing is the collection of your first party data and the ability to transform it so that you can extract value out of it. And that value, that first party data, that value, that is called, at a minimum, identity. But then we're getting into customer 360 and really knowing your audience. But the technology around this is about being able to collect, being able to transform, being able to activate in a privacy safe, privacy compliant manner. The other component is really being able to deliver hyper personalization through your audience experiences as well as through your ad targeting um, uh, and other types of capabilities, whether it's around content and so forth. And so that's the first thing that I want to call out: hyper personalization with your first party data. The second thing is what the digital giants, what the tech giants do better than anyone else is they are able to predict outcomes, and not just one outcome. They're able to predict the wide spectrum of outcomes that could possibly occur. Someone sees a tile in a program discovery experience on a streaming platform or in an app. Someone, what is the action that they are likely to take? Will they click on it? Will they not? That is something that we have an opportunity to be able to predict. And when we predict it, we're able to provide better audience experiences. Um, but it also translates extraordinarily well into the advertising ecosystem. And that's one of the big things that we as an industry really need to embrace is predicting what could happen when someone sees an ad. And it doesn't have to be a website visit or a purchase. It it could be as simple as, are they going to view it completely? Are they not going to view it completely? And but by predicting and then integrating into your decision systems, your decision making algorithms, you are then able to really compete with the largest companies on the planet and begin to win more advertising dollars. And this is what I'm super excited about. And so the way that we go to market at Databricks is we're we ourselves are on a bit of a journey, and we're really embracing the concept of industry and tying our conversations with all of you to business outcomes that matter for your bottom line, that matter for your organizations, and so forth. And so the way that we think about this world is we think about it really in three buckets. The first thing is you have to know your audience. And really that what that is knowing who is on your property and what they're doing, because that unlocks so much. And then when you really know your audience, you're then able to focus on growing and retaining your audience. That's marketing, that's hyper personalization, customer experience, and a lot of you have been doing that for many years. And so we're going to be talking about this a lot today. And there'll even be some conversation about more advanced topics, which include monetizing that audience and monetizing the content that exists within the ecosystem. And so I encourage you all to um, use that QR code and take fill out our poll, if you will, for what use cases are top of mind for you and from your vantage point in the industry. And so that's it for my preamble. And now we really get to go to the more exciting stuff, and that's hearing the customer stories. So I'd like to invite Bala up on this. Bala, do you mind grabbing my water? Thank you so much. I'm going to invite Bala up on the stage from Integral Ad Science. We're going to have a little chat. So here's the clicker for you.
Can you hear me back? All good? Okay.
All right. So Bala, tell us about yourself. What tell us about integral ad science? What is integral ad science and your role there?
Yeah. So integral ad science is a integral ad science is a global measurement and optimization company, right? So what does that mean? So we deal with advertisers, agencies, and publishers on the other side. And what we're trying to do is the clicker is not working. So
You have to aim the clicker.
uh,
It's very Carol. Oh, there you go. Just hold
okay, right. So if you look at this slide I have here, so on the left, you have the advertisers and agencies. So these are the folks that are spending the dollars to advertise in the open internet through programmatic advertising. And then they also advertise in the closed ecosystem, things like the walled gardens, like, the Metas of the world, the YouTubes of the world, right? And then on the right side, you have the publishers and platforms. These are the folks that have the inventory, right? So we are the ones that are connecting the two, right? So we measure advertises basically ads that render in both the closed and open ecosystems. And then we also provide a feedback loop for the publishers to tell them how their inventory is performing, right? Ways to kind of optimize that, right? So what I mean by optimization here is like we collect a lot of data signals as part of the impressions that serve on the ecosystem, and then we have proprietary data enrichment technology where we apply. There's a lot of data science at the core, right? So for IAS, data and science is at the core of our business. So there's a lot of custom data science work that we've done to be able to kind of enrich the data set and make it more actionable, make it, in a way where we can drive outcomes. And then a lot of this needs to happen real time. So I'll be talking about this in the upcoming slide, but one of the biggest challenges we had was how can we take an impression that we're seeing there, a signal that we're seeing there, and then if we have to give an insight to a customer, to an advertiser, to a publisher on like what's working and what's not working, how do we do it like really quickly, right? So it's combining these three to kind of drive customer outcomes, and that's what we do as a company.
That's awesome. So IAS and yourself have been on a bit of a journey, and you actually migrated to Databricks and really launched that new offering, in September of last year. So can you tell us a little bit about, what were the key data and infrastructure challenges your team was facing to prompt a replatform?
Absolutely, yeah. So again, like some of the things that you would see here, it's not unique to us, right? We we started this journey like in 2023, and we went through this process where we were at a pivotal moment where we had to make a decision to either scale vertically, which means like you add more people, more teams to kind of do the same thing. That way you can meet the demand that's coming in, right? Or you go back to the drawing board and rethink how you implemented your data ecosystem, right? So again, it's pretty much the basics, right? So you have a lot of data that coming in. The volume was pretty high. There's a lot of types of data that's coming in. You're working with a lot of partners, different platforms, different data types. So you have a wide variety of data that's coming in, and then you have data that's coming in different cadence, right? So you have like something that's real time, something that's 2 days delayed. How do you kind of bring this together and stitch it all together to kind of like drive the outcome that the customer cares about, right? And then there are a lot of use cases that we are trying to drive as well, right? So measurement is one, optimization is one, attribution. So there are a lot of use cases that you're trying to do with the same data set. And then we had this centralized data team. And then the centralized data team was responsible for both the data platform part of it, and then they're also responsible for building data pipelines to power some of the core functionality for the company, right? The product features. So we hit that spot where we had to kind of rethink how we're going to scale from there. right? So that was kind of the pivotal moment where we started looking at it. We went back to the drawing board, and then we decided to do this thing where we said the traditional data lake, data warehouse approach is probably not going to work for us. And then what we did was we pivoted and we said, probably we're going to go down the path where we do a data mesh, right? So data mesh, again, it's an architecture. It was popularized by Zamak. There's a whole paper around it, where you think about, you have central platform teams, and then you have domain teams, right? So we kind of adopted the data mesh, and so the biggest, again, like I just saw this, like the biggest reason we wanted to do this was we wanted to kind of think about data as a product, right? Data is at the core of our company. So we started to kind of move towards this model where data becomes a product, right? So to kind of enforce that thinking, so we went towards a data mesh. And when I say data mesh, we have a platform team. And then from there, we started to standardize. So this was like our overall architecture that we landed on, where we said, how do we take, one ecosystem, we bring in the data, land the data there, and then data goes through its enrichment journey, and then you have one set of tools that you use to surface that data for different use cases, right? So all the problems that I talked about in the previous slide, we went back and we said, this is what we want to do. And then we basically took this and we said, we went shopping and said, who is going to be able to kind of help us go through this journey successfully, right? And then um, I think, that's how we picked Databricks, right?
So what were the key factors that led you to pick Databricks?
So I think the biggest thing was we wanted a way to kind of, if I may say it, catalog the data that we receive from all different sources, right? So when we spoke to Databricks, Unity Catalog was evolving, but it felt like Unity Catalog had a lot of the features, like you had lineage, you had governance, all of that baked into one ecosystem, and that felt like something that would resonate well with our vision for where we wanted to go, right? So when we talked to Databricks, a lot of it was like saying, hey, here are the use cases, and are these things that you could solve for? How do you solve for it, right? So we did an evaluation, and then we pressure tested it, and then at the end of it, we felt like Databricks was probably the closest to where we wanted to go. And then after that, it's been a journey. Like, we partnered with you. I almost see IAS and Databricks almost be connected at the hip, because that's the only way we're successful at this together.
Love that. Love that. Can you just shed a little bit of light on the size of the data set
Uh,
that did?
yeah, I think, let me quickly go back here, right? So again, if you look at it here, right, so we're looking at probably, you know, upwards of 280 billion events a day, right? So
So it's a lot.
it's a lot of data,
It's a lot.
right? And then
It's a large
it,
portion of what's happening on the
it is. So we're measuring, what's happening out there. So we are collecting a lot of signals,
internet.
and then we're also collecting signals about the content next to which your ads are playing, right? So there's more metadata that we're collecting in there as well.
That's awesome. And so this wasn't just a lift and shift. It was a rebuild. It was a rebuild. You know, do you have any lessons that you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah, no, again, lot of learnings coming out of this, and again, credits to my team. Like, I have a small but mighty team, and then like folks on the Databricks side who've enabled us to be successful, right? So again, data mesh was not a popular implementation out there. It was still kind of in its early stages. Very few people out there had done the data mesh. Even today, when I speak to people, not many customers have done the data mesh, right? So it is a very different approach that we took to this. And what we found was a lot of these were also like, Databricks had the medallion architecture, but it was not a one-to-one fit. So there were a lot of times where we had to get creative about how we solve for these challenges. And, like, it was a kind of a one team moment that kind of helped us get to where we are today, right? Again, like I'll kind of quickly touch upon. So in terms of like what we did with the modernization, right? So this one kind of captures like at a high level where we were when we started the journey, and then 1 year in, there were places where, like, just because of the ecosystem, a lot of these tools came out of the box. So we didn't have to go build for it. So it just made it easy for us to just kind of adopt it. You get lineage, you get governance, all of this just comes out of the box. So it was easy for us to just kind of implement.
So it really allowed you to like focus on the hard problems that frankly were specific to your business and what you and your company really had the expertise in solving rather than all the tooling and
Correct.
so forth.
It let us focus on the business, and then it also accelerated us to get to where we wanted to go from a technology perspective.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we're a little over time, but that this is super valuable. You know, what what last question. What type of opportunities has, you know, your migration onto Databricks created for you guys?
Yeah, again, like I said, we've consolidated our data ecosystem. So everything, like, in a way, if you think about it, now we're building around our data. So if you have data in one place, it's governed, it's all cataloged in one place. It lets us unlock a lot of these potential, right? Like, so AI is becoming big. Like, we've always been a data science ML heavy shop, and then we're now tapping into more AI related opportunities. How do we bring more data signals into the mesh? How do we do it in a way where it's a privacy safe, compliant environment? Like, the data clean rooms, is that something that we can bring in, like first party advertiser data, and then we can bring in our secret sauce, stitch it together in a privacy safe, compliant way? And then how do we drive outcomes from there, right? So there are a lot of things that we're doing now which would directly impact customer outcomes, and we want to be part of their success story as well. And again, like, a lot of that is thanks to the consolidation that we did.
Awesome.
All right.
Bala, thank you
Thank you
so
so
much
much.
for joining us on the stage today.
Thank you.
I'd like to welcome Kate Sirkin and Jen Ferrasi from Publicis. Um, you got some fans, which is super exciting. Um, oh, good. Oh, good. So I'm super excited. We have a world leading agency here on the stage here at Databricks. As far as I know, I think this is the first time in an industry forum that we're really having a wonderful representation here. And from Publicis, um, uh, which is one of the world's largest media agencies, and so much more. And so, thank you for joining us. Um, uh, let's start with you guys introducing yourself and what your role is. You're from different aspects or different areas of the of Publicis Group.
I'll start first. Well, first of all, we're two ladies from Publicis, which is awesome. Um, my name's Kate Sirkin. I run the data partnerships part of Epsilon. I've been with the Publicis Group for 35 years, so I know the business kind of inside and out, and excited to be here and talk about the work that we've done together and with Databricks.
I'm Jen. I actually work at Digitas, which is one of the agencies within Publicis Group, and I lead our data and analytics practice. So everything from data operations and data science work all the way through to behavioral-based audience design and research. I've been with Digitas for 16 years, so not quite as long as Kate's been around, but I've worked with her for almost each of those 16 years, which has been great.
Awesome. So you guys are in different divisions, but you work together and you have a partnership. Could you share a little bit about how that works?
Sure. I have Kate on speed dial. Kate and I work very closely in terms of how we go to market for our clients with an identity-based solution, both from an audience standpoint as well as a measurement standpoint. So often the way it works is we start with outcomes, business outcomes, we build use cases, and then I go to Kate and I say, here's what we want to do, help me figure out how to do it. And then magically she does, and it's great.
It works really well. Thank you, Bala, for the slides that you showed, because that's a lot of the work that we've done over the last 5 years, in partnership with engineers at Epsilon, the people, product people at Databricks, and then the end users of all the products that we have, which is from the agencies like Digitas. Jen's data scientist team are some of the most innovative and challenging, but also co-creators. They want the solution, which makes it easy to work with them. They're happy to listen to different ideas and kind of test and learn together to get to the outcome. Where we start with a strong identity solution, if we've got one single view of the customer, then we're building on top of that enrichment data, the client's first party data, the business use cases, and we seem to get to the right place eventually.
When we were like getting to know each other and prepping, Jen, you mentioned a compelling CPG use case that kind of produced an
Yeah,
innovation cycle. Can you chat about that a
I
little bit?
can. It's actually It's actually a hybrid QSR CPG use case. So we have a client that we work very closely with who sits on the Epsilon infrastructure that Databricks is the foundation of. We port their first party data into that environment along with all of the data that we get from Epsilon, and we were able to do some very interesting analysis for them. The hypothesis going into it was that their products being available in retail grocery stores would actually cannibalize people visiting the restaurant itself. And so using that combination of data sets, we could actually start to understand what was actually incremental versus what was cannibalizing going into the actual restaurant itself. And the outcome was really interesting because number one, there was no cannibalization. And number two, the fact that both existed, and when people were exposed to messaging from both, we actually saw a lift in grocery store sales, which was kind of cool.
That's awesome.
Right. I think the important part of that were the different data assets that we could combine by using our identity infrastructure, but in a way that was governed by the Databricks technology, which allowed different people to have access to different parts of data, protect the client's first party data, and allow us to then manage and report back the use of third party data to the partners that we had in place. So I can sleep at night knowing that I'm sticking to the contracts that I've done. I'm not letting any data, out into the wild, especially when we're using the AI tools now. That's a key part of the work that we do is protecting any third-party data and client first-party data, and the technology allows us to do that in a really scaled and simple way.
We're definitely going to jump into the AI stuff in one moment, but I do have a question for you, and that is. Publicis has a technology offering called Core AI, and the data platform that Epsilon and Publicis are built on are running on Databricks. How can you share a little bit about how it enables innovation from your vantage point? While continuing to ensure that compliance that you were talking about.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a few different things. The first one is having a foundational data asset at the bottom of that people know is representative, is ethically sourced, and all that good stuff. So we start with that. We apply identity to that. So we're matching people's behaviors, people's demographics, people's attitudes, and people's transactions, again, in a compliant way. And then we work with all of the smart people that work across the group to understand what the use cases are, and then co-create those things together. I think you mentioned at the beginning the three tech companies that have 50% of the ad market. Well, I would challenge that in the future, it's people who are making smart use of data, identity, and platforms like this to really predict what's happening in the future, and then have a view of all of the interactions that consumers have with brands in a place where they can tie it full service all the way around to measurement. So I think that's the exciting thing when you're working now with, as the Publicis Group has done, the impact of influencers and commerce as well as media channels. I know I have a 20-year-old daughter, and there's not a thing that she buys that an influencer hasn't, helped her buy. It's just a different world to one that we worked in maybe 5 years ago, where we didn't have access to the data about those kinds of transactions. So it's tying it all together and having that really 360 connected to the sales, the end results, as well as all of the exposures that allows us to do it and deliver things for clients that grow their brands.
I totally agree with you.
I'm so excited about it.
But I agree with you. And something that's really unique about our market and our space is that the more data that becomes available, the more curious we all become. because we want to find out how to deliver the ultimate holy grail of efficiency and effectiveness in the media ecosystem. And it's really like it's exponentially becoming exciting.
Right. And the data is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And without infrastructures, you can't manage it in the ways that we used to do before.
Totally, totally. So now we're going to get into AI. Okay. And Jen, you mentioned, some AI use cases during our conversations, audience creation, content insight, testing, synthetic data generation.
Yeah.
Can you dive deeper into that, and what you find particularly impactful?
Yeah, so I would say there's sort of two sides to it. So one is the data foundation that Kate keeps talking about, and none of this would be possible without the infrastructure that sits within Epsilon that gives us access to all of this data. But what we're using it for is what's super exciting. We're starting to build agents, as everybody is these days, but with very specific use cases in mind. Content creation, yes. The one I think is the most compelling is around audiences. So we can create these seed audiences using the data within the Epsilon platform. We ingest them into these agents, and then we can interrogate them in a scaled way, either to ask what resonates with them, pressure test, copy. We can even upload images of creative and say, what do you think of this? And it will tell us back what we think. And what I think is really cool about it is we can start to get different audiences, different personas, multiple ones. We can create separate agents for each of them and then essentially create our own focus groups in a scaled way with a fraction of the cost and the time it would take to do it manually like we did in the past.
So basically, virtual or an agentic panel.
Exactly.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I think, I mean, I'm seeing this, at a couple of other organizations, but I think that what you're doing at Publicis is really groundbreaking, and it gives me chills of excitement. So thank you. Anything else from an AI perspective?
I'll just build on one thing. I think that all of this sounds great and cool, but you have to go back and validate it. And because we've got all of the historical data, we've got the ability to go back and do that just to make sure it's telling us the right thing. So we can then continue to look to the future and predict using some of that validated data.
And are you seeing it tell you the right thing that you
The
expect?
right thing and more.
Okay.
Which is super cool. And it's not saying that it's perfect the first time you do it. There's a ton of work that goes into testing and reapplying. It's a journey. It's a journey, but it's a super exciting journey to be on.
Awesome. Awesome. Last question. Do you have any recommendations in terms of best practices for others in the audience and on streaming and time delay, for them on their journey?
Sure. I would say, Kate would say this too, right? You've got to start with a solid data foundation. That matters almost more than any other component. Partnership, starting with the business outcome, the use case, iterate. What else?
Don't be scared.
Don't be scared.
Don't be scared.
I love
Just
that.
jump in.
Tony loves it. Any last words? All right. Well, Kate and Jen, thank you so much for joining us today. If you could leave your mics open. Thank you so much. So I'd like to welcome up friends from NBC Universal. We have Kevin Hill and we have Leah Van Zelm. Welcome to the friendly stage at the Media and Advertising Industry Forum.
Thank you for having us.
I would like to say the first time that I met Noah, we had an entire 10-minute conversation on the pros and cons of raising chickens for yourself. So I'm really excited for this to get real weird.
I don't know where this is going.
I was like, oh my God, where are you going? There are pros and cons. All right. So actually, let's start with Leah. Tell us about your role in the division within NBCU that you sit in.
Yes, I lead the data science team within advertising and partnerships in NBC. We have 3 pillars in the group: an audience science team, a measurement science team focused on outcomes and ROI, and then a currency team focused on some of the more traditional media metrics as well. We are a centralized team so, in that role, I am responsible for retaining employees, developing employees, and then we're also embedded into insights and measurement and product. So in that capacity, we are responsible for driving advertiser impact and outcomes.
And outcomes are so incredibly
Can
important.
be top of funnel, can be reach and scale, can be mid funnel, lower funnel, because CTV is evolving so fast.
Totally, totally. And outcomes prove that CTV can do so much more than I think a lot of the market recognizes.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And Kevin, tell us about your role and where you sit within NBCU.
Absolutely. So I'm Kevin Hill, and I am the Senior Vice President of Data Technology and Products across the NBCU ecosystem. And our teams are really responsible for building scalable, reusable, high quality data systems and partnering with our analytics and data science partners like Leia across the NBCU portfolio. And we really kind of focus on everything from day-to-day dashboarding and visualization all the way through full end-to-end systems that are building and used throughout many different entities within inside of NBC.
Awesome. So we're gonna dig into like data strategy and applications, and starting with Leia, how from your vantage point, how is NBCU using data today? And what types of data? And when I say what types of data, I'm really thinking about first party data, third party data, identity data versus content, type data.
Yeah, we get to work with so much fun data. So our content data, which is both structured and unstructured data, is an amazing way to understand what our consumers are watching in a much more nuanced manner. We, of course, leverage a ton of audience data. Identity is at the core of all of it. We've unified 200 million individuals, and that's about 100 million households, and we're able to
That's a lot.
understand. Yeah, it's a huge majority of the US. And we understand their viewership, what they've read, if they've gone to the parks. So we get a great entertainment view. In addition, we do license third-party data to enhance that view, because our advertisers don't typically come to us and say, hey, we just want people who are interested in drama. They're actually looking more and more for people who have a propensity to buy chips, or they're in the market for a new car, and marry that with our viewership data and targeting. And lastly, we leveraged quite a bit of ad exposure data now. So to the point of Bala, understanding who's been exposed to an ad, how many times, and then what the outcomes are, so we can really close that measurement loop.
Yeah.
And optimize from there.
Awesome. So speaking about, content data and AI and, other types of data, basically there's structured data and there's unstructured data.
Yep.
And you're doing some very novel work with unstructured data and AI to be able to understand that.
Yeah, our team is actually one of the first, if not the first, within NBC to prove out in like real life use cases the value of some of the unstructured data. So using your platform, we were able to feed in multimodal data, so text, images, audio, and assign our own metadata. And we're then able to scale by using the batch inference tool. So now we've tagged, I don't know, 40, I'm looking at my team, 40,000 videos, 90,000 plus articles that we use to better understand our consumer. We couldn't have done that. We calculated that it would have taken us 56 years
And now
to do that without tools.
And now you have a vast content metadata library that's sitting in Databricks and potentially other systems,
Yep.
and you're able to use that to understand content investment, but you're also able to use it for contextual advertising, which is a really valuable unlock.
Super valuable. And there's years of studies by the ARF on the importance of aligning contextually within linear. Now we've been able to test and prove out and back test within CTV that we also see a lift when we're aligning context of an ad with context of the content, whether it's product, color, imagery, or really interesting thematic alignment on moods and tones. So it's been quite a breakthrough for the CTV space, and also just personally interesting.
I agree. I definitely agree. So, Kevin, building a data and AI culture can be challenging. Okay. How have you approached this at NBCU?
It absolutely can be challenging. There's no question about that. But I do think there's some key sort of steps that we've taken. The first is really kind of surveying that AI and data landscape that we have, and making sure that we have an AI strategy that's really aligned to our business strategy, and making sure that we are facilitating it to be able to target those KPIs that are really being set, I would say, by our leadership teams. But most importantly, I do think that the data foundation, because it's the engine that really runs a majority of the AI components to it, and being able to have a really sort of systematic end-to-end data foundation, it has been key for us.
Awesome. Awesome. So what is your team most excited about when it comes to embracing
There's one thing that I think I'm most excited about for sure, and that's really having AI really bring in a bunch more people that weren't necessarily involved in the data process previously. And this is everything from our business partners and some of our marketing partners and things like that. But these are people that maybe traditionally didn't have the backgrounds of SQL knowledge or Python knowledge and things like that. And really being able to bring the data to them and the tools to them so that they can continue to, build and create things right for their businesses.
That's great. Are there other opportunities that you see for AI?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a
organizations?
lot of the opportunities that we're looking at are very specific around like efficiencies and things like that from an engineering perspective. But again, it's really sort of blending the data creation all the way through the decision making process, and shortening that pipeline as much as we possibly can to get from data to decision for our teams.
That's awesome. And democratizing access to the data.
Absolutely, yes, yeah, no question.
Totally, totally. So, what, open question for both of you. What challenges inspired you to seek new solutions, and specifically, of course, how has Databricks helped? I'd love to hear about your experience with leading you, ML Flow and Unity Catalog.
I'll take this one to start. So there's two big things I think we were looking at in terms of our data foundations, and the first one was just the volume of data that we're dealing with nowadays. It's huge. I mean, we're creating just massive amounts of terabytes every single day, and we wanted a partner and a platform that had the intelligence, the scalability, and really the agility to kind of move with us as we're working our way through that ecosystem.
Awesome.
Yeah, and as we just building on that, as we've looked to scale efficiency in a very highly governed and privacy-minded company, it's been so important for us to not just build our models, which of course our team, we started with Databricks because we really love the notebooks, right?
Yeah.
Data scientists always love notebooks, but we've also been able to move into ML Flow and Unity Catalog so we can then scale, build repeatability, automate, and then continue to govern not just the data, but also the models and the collaborative notebooks in a way that allows us to scale the team in again, a very governed and privacy-minded manner.
Totally, totally. What type of outcomes have you seen from going through this and implementing?
Well, as you guys all know, data scientists spend 80% of their time prepping data, 20% of their time complaining about prepping the data. So, we were as thrilled when, we kind of went double down, as they like to, as we say in Databricks, because it has freed up a lot of time. A lot of the more repetitive processes, a lot of the manual intervention has been freed up so that the data scientists can create new things, make decisions, just, be more strategic and take away some of that more tedious work.
Totally, totally. So a solid data foundation or a solid data technology foundation allows you to flip that 80/20.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
which
Yeah.
is the dream that I think we all strive for. So last question, what advice, if any, would you offer to our friends in the audience?
Yeah, I think, earlier in my career, it was still, a lot of waterfall methodology, right? So complaints about 3 years to deploy a single database and not enough value. Then we kind of moved to the more agile approach. And I think sometimes it's swung so far that it's just POC after POC after POC. So now my favorite saying is start small, think big, scale fast, because most companies get one or two of those, right? But rarely all three.
I love that.
Yep. And I think we've said it a couple of times up here, and I've heard a lot of people already say it at the conference, is really about that data foundation. But more importantly, it's about aligning that data foundation to the KPIs that really drive your business and making sure that you are achieving those objectives and those goals and not just sort of chasing AI for the sake of chasing AI.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much,
Thank
Leah.
you.
Thank you.
all of
Kevin,
you.
thank you for joining us. Thank you so much. I'd like to welcome up my last fireside chat, but don't get too excited because we have a fireside chat after that. We're going to go a little over 5 p.m. Oh my goodness. So I'd like to welcome Kyle Holloway from Axiom up on our media and advertising stage. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Kyle, tell us about what Axiom does and what your role is there.
Sure. So many of you may be familiar with Axiom, and we've been in the marketing and advertising business for 56 years. Historically, we kind of grew up more on the marketing side of the house, and have recently, over the past 5 years or so, become part of the IPG family, and have leaned heavily into more of the advertising side of the ecosystem. And so we focus and have been leaders in identity, both third-party referential identity and also first-party private identity, as well as then data. Similarly, focusing on our ability to deliver large referential data sets that span both the U.S. population and globally, as well as helping brands curate their own data, their own first-party data, and really bring life to it within their ecosystem. And then our marketing services capabilities, as well as some analytics capabilities.
That's a breadth of
Yes.
capabilities. And so your role is you're in charge of identity and
Data.
data.
So I've got our global identity and data products, which we both consume internally. So we kind of eat our own dog food, as they say in Arkansas. And so we use our products and capabilities, and we also deliver those for use by both IPG agencies as well as direct to brand.
Awesome, awesome. So speaking about identity, the landscape is evolving rapidly, to say the least. You're playing, and Axiom are playing a very critical role in the marketplace to help support, organizations navigating this change. Can you talk about like how you're helping them transition to a cookieless future, and be able to still have robust identity?
Yeah, so a very loaded question, as I'm sure we all experience. Identity has a lot of different aspects to it, both in the context of just first party, and that's really where we see a lot of movement these days as brands are now starting to take back control their view of the consumer. We kind of went through a period, especially on the advertising side of the house, where There was this kind of panacea that, oh, third-party cookies kind of solves it, and then we just kind of went with that. But the reality is, it's kind of that veil has been pulled back, and we've all collectively kind of taken a breath and said, well, wait a second, there is a better way to do this. And there's also a need with the continuing rise in privacy regulations for brands to take more control directly of their first-party data, but they don't necessarily have a lot of experience with that. So we're bringing both expertise and tools directly to the brand to help them be able to master their data, generate that 360-degree view, and then be able to apply it across their enterprise, and then through their relationships across the ecosystem.
So there's a like peeling back the onion here. Identity can make us cry, but I think onions taste great. So and there's something to be learned at each layer, and I think it's really important to think about how identity manifests. And don't worry, I'm not going off script, but it is talk to us a little bit about deterministic versus probabilistic and the role that plays in identity.
Yeah, okay. So getting kind of technical here.
Just a little.
Just a little, right? Well, deterministic is simply being able to take visible signs and attributes, whether it is an identifier itself or it could be just like a name and an address, something physical that is manifested in the digital manner, and then matching that directly together. Probabilistic is looking at signals that may not be directly related to a consumer in the sense of being able to identify them, but you're being able to ascertain that that looks like somebody, or those different signals actually go together to form a person. So you're able to take kind of snippets of information, model those, determine that those go together. That's usually been done more on like the device side, being able to look at device signals as they're coming across your own media and such. So it's really the aspect of more of the terrestrial known ability to make direct linkages deterministically versus in the probabilistic side being able to model against that.
And is it black and white, you choose one, or is the future really a combination of both?
Absolutely, it's a combination. I mean, all things are that way, right? It would
agree.
be nice, and well, I wouldn't have a job necessarily if it was simple and if there was just one answer. But identity is a spectrum of capabilities, and it's as you have that engagement with the consumer, everything from a pseudonymous engagement, maybe on a website where it's the first time they've ever visited and you haven't seen them before, all the way to a deep loyalty relationship where you're engaging with that consumer across multiple channels in the longitude of time. Identity plays in all of that. You may start in a more probabilistic fashion, just trying to ascertain who that might be from the signals that you are able to gather, all the way to the point that you have those very deep knowledge of the consumer directly.
Yeah. So, one of the big things that powers this ecosystem is audience targeting and measurement and attribution. And to be able to do that, you have to be able to pass audiences from, a marketer to an agency and then on to the media seller or publisher that is activating that and so forth. And that requires a whole bunch of things that fall under the bucket of audience activation. Okay. And when we were chatting, we were talking about the potential, the opportunity of moving beyond using like hashed email address as the sole way to be able to activate audiences between parties. What's your take on this in terms of what we can do?
Right. Well, certainly we all have aspirations and we all want to really be able to transact and have an audience move through all those different layers that you mentioned with high fidelity and accuracy and do that in a privacy conscious manner, because certainly that's the overarching kind of constraints that are being put on the ecosystem is this aspect of privacy. And so it's important starting with the brand with their first party data, providing them mechanisms so that they can actually understand those consumers, not just from what they know themselves, but what their partners may know third-party data providers, being able to bring those signals together in a privacy-conscious manner, but at high fidelity, meaning in a deterministic way, and being able to model that, segment it,
To scale it up
scale
and
it,
enrich it.
do all that, and then be able to push it out into the ecosystem. But there isn't just a ubiquitous currency for doing that. Like I said, hashed emails kind of been something that generally is what people are using, but we all know, at least the vast majority of us, and the younger you are, probably the more emails you have, because you might replicate lots of different emails through different engagements. And so trying to target a consumer just by saying, oh, here's a hashed email, this represents consumer, now go find them, your match rates are not going to be very good, right?
Yep.
So bring in an identity layer that has all of those relationships of data points about the consumer, their touch points tied together,
Yep.
and being able to use that to enrich that audience to say, this is Kyle, but Kyle is actually represented by these 5 hashed emails. Now you're going to see a much higher incremental match rate.
And an IP address, maybe.
Could even be out to an IP address, which starts to bring in the probabilistic side, right? And so you have to understand that your audience is going to morph over time. And so being very conscious about how you're doing that, which currency are you using with your partners, and are you doing that in a one-to-one level, or are you trying to do that more in a reach-oriented manner where you are starting to bring in more of those probabilistic linkages? So you're going from a known individual to like a hashed email, but scale that either the individual or household level, and then translate that even on into like IP addresses for activation within
Totally.
like CTV.
Totally. So our last topic that we're going to dig into is around data collaboration and clean rooms. And of course, we'll talk about Databricks clean room and Delta sharing and so forth. But, what role does data collaboration play?
I think it's just paramount. I mean, it's table stakes at this point in time, right?
Yep.
There is no just one single ubiquitous solution that just kind of is the silver bullet that's going to answer that. You're going to need to collaborate with multiple parties, and in doing so, a clean room is great. However, just talking about the fidelity aspect, if you don't bring some kind of identity capability into that clean room as an additional kind of amplifier, your match rates aren't going to be what you're looking for. And so by bringing in a partner into the clean room that can provide that identity graph,
Yep.
to enhance the match so that now you have the fidelity that you're looking for as you're engaging with that downstream partner.
Totally. I would add that, media companies, publishers, et cetera, agencies and so forth, marketers, they have first party data. Their first party data describes who they've interacted with. But you need third party data to augment that so that you can better understand that, but also to understand the potential audience that could be reached or interacted with. And so there's a lot of opportunity there. And so as we wrap up here on our stage, any parting words of advice that you'd like to share?
One is just to breathe. Change is happening so rapidly, and there's new announcements every day. Is first just to just sit back and breathe for a minute, and that's okay. I mean, we're in a very exciting time. Actually, there's lots of new capabilities being enabled, and Databricks. You just kind of got to watch their blog because every day something new is coming out. That's awesome. And so first is just to just kind of absorb that, and then I'm always one who espouses clarity over certainty. Like be clear in your strategy right now, but just be open to change and know that something may change. So you don't have to be certain that this is the only answer because there are so many new development coming out. So just be clear about what you're trying to do, and then find the right partners to do that. And then it's obviously about progress over perfection. Just
love that.
keep making progress.
I love that. And it's a journey.
Absolutely.
I think I've said that like 5 times, but it really is. So Kyle, thank you so much for joining us today. All right. Oh, you have 10 minutes. So I'd like to introduce Phil Martin from Fox Sports and Tony Lavaseur from Databricks. I'm going to take a breather. Thank you for joining us on our stage.
Thank you. All right.
Everybody's leaving, so ours is going to be easier. Oh, you did get close to me.
I thought it would.
So I'm super excited to have Phil up here from Fox. Fox has done some really incredible things with Databricks over the years. Just to kick it off, what do you do for Fox? And
Yeah, for those sticking around, I appreciate it. I understand there's dozens of happy hours to get to. I'm chomping at the bit myself to get there, but
me too.
yeah, right. I need one of
We
Tony's.
could just do this at the happy hour.
Yeah, we could. We'll make it a real fireside chat. I'm Phil Martin, SVP of Emerging Technology. We're really focused on transforming our business both internally and externally. That's the short of it.
That is short for you.
That we're 1 minute over.
Yeah, exactly. I would say you've been a customer for like 5 years. I've known you maybe more than 5 years. Lots changed with Databricks over those 5 years. What would you say? Like, how has your perception changed from like Databricks was this, not Databricks is that?
I'm going to use a bunch of sports analogies if that's okay.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think when we first started partnering with you guys, I would liken it to strength and conditioning. We wanted to get bigger, faster, stronger, more disciplined with our data, accelerating our data pipelines. And now with the evolutions of your own respective products, acquisitions, you guys are helping us go from being game ready to now, excuse me, I don't know how many of your executives are here, being the big uglies in the trenches that are clearing open, making these openings so we can accelerate through, get to the second level, break a bunch of tackles and score. And with the Databricks platform now and everything that we've invested in, we're able to repeat that. So we can run up the scoreboard on our competition and get win after win after win. And so it's been a fantastic partnership, growing and developing with one another, going 10 toes in on every single example or every effort that we can think of. And so it's been great evolution on both sides, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can you hear me? It's not even working anymore, but yeah, I would agree. There we go. Yeah,
we're done.
I would
like,
agree.
he's made one too many sports analogies.
I would say that working with the entire Fox team has been incredible. I mean, it's a true partnership. You guys are we engage really well with you, and you guys are very upfront with what you're trying to build, which makes it easy for us to help you execute on that. And I also would say like Fox does have a reputation for like redefining the digital experience when it comes to everything that you entertainment, news, sports, weather. Help us all understand how does data, AI, all of that play into these new products and experiences that you're providing us as viewers.
Yeah, I would say ever since our beginning, Fox has been bold, innovative, disruptive. What other verb can I throw at you guys? But that is who we are at our core. It's what we believe in. So as we're meeting fans where they are today, surprising them with what's possible, it doesn't matter whether you're watching a live game, scrolling through headlines, or binge watching your favorite TV show. We never view those as passive moments. They're opportunities to engage. And so that's just what it is with this next wave of intelligence, is us just really dialing that in so that we take those moments and take passive actions and translate those into active engagement moments. So it doesn't matter if it's highlights, whether we're doing news summaries or short form content creation, every single one of those things are opportunities for us to engage. And it's so challenging in today's world. As we all know, we're all stretched thin across the board. And so just really fixating on that and just really being a net difference with all these capabilities.
And I don't know if a lot of people know, but you know, a lot of things about Databricks, it's kind of in the back room, right? It's like when my kids ask me what I do, I'm like, I'm in the data space. They're like, well, they don't even know what that is. What's cool about what Fox and Fox Sports have done with the product is you can actually see it, you could touch it, you could feel it. If you go to foxsports.com right now, I would get everybody should just launch or download the app right now. If you hit the search experience, that's built and powered by Databricks, right? And there's some folks in the room here that were very instrumental in building that with Phil as well. So.
Or they can go to Moscone West or South.
I forgot about that.
Yes, as well. You can check it out. We got an exhibit over there.
Huge exhibit activation that they're doing. Yeah. Go play some Pop-A-Shot. You can play some pool, and you can interact with some folks there, and they can show you what's being built on Databricks. Consumer-facing applications now, which is pretty cool. With that said, are there like new metrics that you have to like dream up of, or how do you measure success when you're building some of these awesome products?
Yeah, not to sound like a broken record, but it's really about, are we capturing attention and are we converting that into action? And so, again, to make another sports analogy, it's like the sports. We don't want fans just in the stands. We want them cheering. We want them buying jerseys, going to the concession stands, having fun, and coming back every day and night. So, I guess to put a bow on it, our scoreboard would be engagement and impact, and that's how we really measure success.
Nice. Um, Challenges,
Oh,
new like AI. I mean, you've gone through it with us. I think you've helped develop a lot of the Mosaic AI platform capabilities, but like just some challenges that you guys have hit when you've been building these AI applications, and how you've overcome them.
yeah, I think just starting at the top of the funnel, just looking at fragmentation. Fans are everywhere today. They're on multiple platforms, multiple devices. Their attention span is thinner than ever. And then, personally, from a media and entertainment standpoint, our competition is getting wider, deeper. Seemingly, new players are coming into this space constantly. And I don't view this necessarily as a challenge, but I think it's more so a reality. The technology and the pace at which it's changing. And so, for us to kind of combat that, we've had to rethink our stack, bake in more flexibility, so that way we can be responsive to the behavioral shifts, the technology shifts, and that way we can, not only just skate where the puck is going, but also dictate where the puck is going. And back to that being bold and innovative in that way.
Pretty cool stuff you guys are building. I mean, I would say just helping folks here that want to get started, haven't got started. What would be some advice you would give them? This is our final question. Then we can get to the drinks, folks.
Yeah, I would say get started. I mean, I've been doing this for over 18 years. It's never been more easier to do it. You can literally pluck things out of thin air and bring it to market literally within days. So I think first and foremost, that is super exciting. You've heard a lot of people talk today. Don't chase perfection, be iterative. And I think lean on your core strengths. What unique data do you have? What audience signals your content? I talked about flexibility and extensibility. That's your moat. And when you think about that, like, Tony referenced search and some of the other things that you can see over that exhibit. And again, if you take that structural approach really with your foundation, you can extend it to a dozen different use cases. So forget the gal who talked about like fail fast versus creating all these one-off prototypes. You don't have to start 0 to 1 on everything. You can go from
That was your competition.
Oh, don't listen to her. Look on Twitter; it's all bad. No, I'm kidding. That's a joke. Y'all are doing great. But you can really start at like P or Q and really take it to Z. And I think that's super exciting. And then it goes without saying. I mean, your customer, the fan. That's your North Star, without a doubt.
I would say you've got a great team. You've got great leadership. Um, the first time I met Melody, I mean, I think she said she had 85. She had 85 like AI use cases, and by the third meeting, she's like, "Where's my proposal? Let's just get started." And we went and built the first use case. I think that was like some with the headlines very quickly. So
I really thought you were going to say you started the meeting with 85 and ended with 185.
yeah. But that's what I love about your team, all of Fox, is you guys just do it. Just do it. Oh man. That's another customer, by the way, Nike.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot, Phil.
Thank you.
We went
Appreciate it.
quick, but
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who stayed. I so appreciate it. This was 2025 Media and Advertising Forum. I just have to show these slides. And but we're done. So thank you so much. And thank you for being an awesome audience.